What's going on, everyone? Sebastian here. Today I'm going to show you 5 easy ways to determine if your product is too saturated. This is going to be especially important for all you new sellers out there. If you're struggling at, keeping your keyword ranking, getting sales going. So I'm going to shed light on some of these ways that you can determine if your product is too saturated. That way you can look into perhaps launching another product and or seeing what you have to do to revive the one you currently have. But this is really going to be beneficial to all you new sellers out there. And even if you're a seasoned seller, this is going to shed a lot of light onto new ways to determine bringing in new products to market and also auditing what you currently have, okay? So the very first way that we're going to determine this is, so number one is you're going to want to look at your PPC bids, okay? So the way I determine this is, if your PPC bids are over 25% costs. So if your product is, let's say, let me do this right here. If your product is $19.99 and your average cost per click is, I don't know, $5, this is your product cost, and bid cost is $5. A really good niche that that encompasses this very thing is supplements. So the supplement niche, people will sell supplements $19.99, $24.99, $14.99, and sellers are looking at bids that are at $5. So you can clearly see this is, 25% of your product cost. That is huge. So whether that's sustainable or not is up to you and your business, but just on paper, it'll make your life a whole lot easier if your bids are, and this is just a general average, below 5%. So this is in the red, 25%, you really want to stay far, far away from that. But if your bids are about, 5%, I would say that's a check. And anything under 5% is going to be ideal, actually. But this is going to be a good minimum starting point to determine if your product is oversaturated. Because if a product is selling for $19.99 and the bids are at $5, this is just a click, not even a guaranteed sale. That's telling you there is so much. There are so many sellers competing for the keywords you're targeting that the market is pushing those costs up, obviously. So, this is not sustainable at all. And so a lot of times you'll find your ACoS, no matter what you do, no matter how many, like for us, for example, at Zonerish, we help sellers manage their PPC and launch their products with Facebook ads. But if we're auditing your account and we see that, your average cost per click is $5, we're going to let you know in a report that, look, this product is potentially oversaturated, and so we'll mentor you to help you, if you're going to look into other product ideas, go ahead and do that, or how you want to proceed, because some sellers, no matter what you do to the account, like I was just mentioning, no matter if you break it down, it's fully optimized, you thin it out, your ACoS, if you're working with these numbers, your ACoS is always going to be above, a 50%. You might have some exceptions, but a 50% ACoS, and it's probably going to be way more than that, probably in the hundreds, if this is what you're working with. So what you need to do is you need to audit your own PPC campaigns, and you need to determine what percentage you're paying per click relative to your sales price. So obviously, just to make this clean, $19.99, $5 a click, that's 25% of your product sales price. So you're going to want to determine what percentage your product lies under. And again, ideally, you want to be 5% and under. Anything under 5% is going to be best. Under 5%. So I hope that made sense. And this is clearly the reason why I like this first one is because you're letting the market tell you based on the data how competitive and how saturated your niche is. Now, 25% cost per goods, that's wildly saturated. So let the market determine, let the market tell you, if you should pivot into another niche, another product. Let the data lead your next product idea, or determine if you should double down on, if you're way under 5%, double down on that, right? Let the market data support you in your Amazon business. So that's just the first way. Now let's go to number 2. All right, so number 2 is your main keyword phrase has over 10,000 competitors, right? So main keyword phrase over 10K sellers. So this is super easy to determine. Just go to Amazon, type in your main keyword phrase, and be sure you niche down by the category, because sometimes Amazon will give you, a super high number, like 100,000, but if you niche down more on the left-hand side to your specific category, you're gonna see your actual competition for that phrase, okay? So if it's over 10,000 sellers, this one's going to be super quick, because that's telling you, as time goes on, that number is going to continually increase. So that means you're competing with over 10,000 other people who want that keyword. And so, like the previous lesson mentioned, maybe you might have low ACoS now, but 10,000 sellers is going to quickly jack up those prices, right? So that's not really sustainable for the long term. So you really want to stay under. And again, this is just a general rule of thumb. Under 2,000. Stay under 2,000 sellers. So again, you type in your keyword. And you niche down by the category. And if you have under 2,000 sellers, you have a lot more wiggle room, long term, speaking for the long term, than you do if you have already 10,000 sellers competing for your main keyword phrase. Okay, so stay under 2,000 sellers. Okay, this one's super easy to remember. It's super easy to do an audit for yourself. And if you're looking for new product ideas, type the main keyword phrase in, and do this quick audit on that keyword to see if it's overly competitive or not. All right, so now let's go to number 3. All right, number 3 is keyword volatility. So this one is super important. So we'll do keyword volatility. Okay. So let's make a quick graph here. Let's say this is search volume, and this is your keyword rank, by day. So you should be tracking this if you're not already tracking your keyword ranking. It's really important to know where you're at. I know a lot of sellers who don't track their keyword ranking. So this just helps you better arm yourself to know what's going on, if there's more competitors entering your market. It really allows you to put your finger on the pulse of your niche. So you really want to track your keyword ranking. We use a tool called Helium 10. I recommend it. I'll put a link below for 50% off if you want to check it out. And basically, this is what you're wanting to stay away from. So let's say search volume, keyword rank, instead of looking like this, over time, your keyword rank looks like this. Maybe one day you'll be, ranked for your main keyword, fairly high, and the next day it goes boom, and then the next day it goes boom, then it goes boom, and then it goes like this. So you get the picture. What this is telling you is that one little, price change, one little something, if you can't even change your price by $1 without seeing your, or by 10%, without seeing your rank completely tank, that means you're in a highly volatile product category. So that means there's a lot of sellers competing for your keywords, And if you change your price by even 10%, the market's already like, there's not enough differentiating components to your product. Therefore, they're going to go to the cheaper option, which will probably be your competitors, obviously, and your sales will your sales will quickly decline because there's too much. It's too saturated, and let your keyword ranking determine how saturated your product is going to be for the long term. You have to ask yourself, if your keyword ranking is doing this all over the place, how sustainable is that really for you? And as much as you might want to keep that product, maybe you love your product, as much as you want to keep it and grow similar products around it, let the data guide you. Okay, it's a super black and white thing to notice if from one day to the next your rank is all over the place, or you do one little tweak and you start to see your rank drop dramatically. If it's not too saturated, a 10% price increase, as Amazon sellers, we want to make more money. That's why we're in business. And you want to raise your prices over time. And if you raise it by 10%, it shouldn't do a nosedive in keyword rank. It should, you might see some declension right here, but the market will hold it, right? If it's not too saturated, you're not going to see a nosedive. You're going to see, you might not even see a decrease. But if you do see a decrease, this is a good way to determine if it's not saturated. Maybe a little bit, but then it'll taper out right here. And as time goes on, your social proof increases. It'll probably begin to go back up, right? If you have a really awesome product and it's differentiated. Okay, so look at your keyword volatility across, your top 10 keywords, and really look at how the meter runs. If you're all over the place, like I just stated, it's going to be too saturated. If it's, pretty constant, you're ranking at the top for your main keywords, despite new competitors, it means one, you have a really good product, and two, it's not saturated. So good job. So again, just let the data guide you. Check your keyword volatility. It'll determine and help you further your Amazon business in the long term. All right. So now let's go to 4. All right. So number 4 is reviews. So you're going to want to look at your top 5 competitors for your main keyword. And, if your competitors are in the thousands of reviews, so reviews, top 5 competitors, they have over 1,000 reviews, it's going to be extremely hard for you to muscle your way to the top. Okay, I'm not saying it's impossible. If you have a better product, if you have a superior product at a superior price and you're willing to shell out the money to do it, maybe you could squeeze in with competitors that have over 1,000 reviews. But if you're just starting out, you don't want to add the extra headache of having to compete with these top dogs. Okay, it's better to try to find product niches that you can carve a little slice out for yourself that have way less. There's millions of products on Amazon. You'll find a lot that have under 1,000 reviews with your top 5 competitors, right? So just a caveat to look at. And also, if your current product review rate is below 1%, so if you're sending product review requests out and you're seeing, less than 1%, again, that's a really strong indicator that these people are just done being bombarded with review requests for your particular category. So reviews are going to be a lot harder to come by. So for every 100 people, you only get 1 review. You're going to have to make a lot of sales to catch up to these guys. So look at your review rate. If it's less than 1%, you're going to really. It could also be your the messaging you're sending. If you're not providing value first and asking for the review, after you provide some sort of value, maybe a how-to, a PDF, an ebook, whatever. Yes, these do take time to create, but if you want to succeed, you got to put in the time, right? So check your messaging, but generally, If it's below 1% and you know your review rates, your review messaging are optimized, you know, you might consider that this is already too saturated. And again, the rule of thumb, you might want to stay out of niches that have, you know, competitors with thousands of reviews. It's going to be really hard to compete with these guys. So now let's go to number 5. All right, so finally, number 5, when you type in your main keyword phrase on Amazon and you look at the products that are on the first page, if you notice that there's no differentiating factor amongst any of those products, or if about 80% of them all look the same, odds are the product is way too saturated. Which means if you went to Alibaba and just brought the product yourself, it's gonna be an uphill battle for you. So do this audit on your own products. Okay, so do this audit yourself. If you go to Amazon and type in your main keyword phrase, do an audit of your own product. Do the products look the same? And if they do, you're gonna have to ask yourself, you know, in the future, people are just buying your product directly from Alibaba and then they're just copy and pasting it into Amazon. If there's no differentiating factor there, I mean, it's already saturated from the get-go. So do that audit. If you do it, and if you start to see that a lot of the products on page 1 are very similar, what's going to eventually happen is there's going to be a downward spiral occurring, and that downward spiral is going to be a price bidding war, and it's called the race to the bottom, essentially. So the products are just going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and the CPC costs are going to go up. So if all the products on page 1 look the same, and you're going to want to do an audit for products you're currently looking into or one you're already selling, what's going to happen are bids will go up. Okay, bids will go up and prices will go down. So as you can see, this is not a very good place to be in as an Amazon seller. Bids go up, prices go down. And the reason why is because, you know, people have thousands of units in their inventory and they don't want to get stuck with long-term storage fees. So it can be a nightmare if you're in this type of position. So if you're looking into products, avoid the products that all look the same on page 1, okay, amongst the other 4 criteria I just gave you, and also do an audit for yourself, right? If they all look the same, including your product, then this is what's going to happen in the future. So use this to arm yourself to make your product better, and or use this to pivot into another product category, okay? So this is just, you know, the 5 easy ways that, you know, new sellers can empower themselves to succeed on the platform long term. And even if you're a seasoned seller, it's always good to touch up on, you know, any knowledge you might currently have, add it to your tool belt. Okay, so I hope you guys love this content. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and please leave your comments below. I love talking to you guys, and let me know what you think about this content. All right, I'll see you guys on the next video.